What's going on, everyone? So, the San Antonio Spurs have been experimenting with some of those double big lineups, particularly with Luke Kornet and Victor Wembanyama, having those two slotted in at the center and power forward spot. And I love that. Right? I've talked about that during this offseason. From the moment we got Luke Kornet, I was like, hey, I could see kind of those double big lineups, especially as you're seeing this NBA kind of shifting more back into the big men, seeing more and more teams kind of stock up and stack up on big men. You have several teams even in the Western Conference that are running multiple bigs, right? So it makes some sense to, if you match up against one of those teams, now you can go with the double big, right? And there's a couple things about that. One, I've talked about, I want to see the Spurs and the beauty of the Spurs with their depth and everything gives you different lineup configurations, but also makes you as chameleon-like as possible, right? So if you're playing a team like the Warriors, right, you can go with a Victor Wembanyama to match up against an Al Horford, and then go with whatever, Jeremy Sohan or a Harrison Barnes or whatever at the 4 to match up with like a Draymond Green, and you can kind of go the 5 out and kind of match up better against that team, maybe match up their guards, so on and so forth. But if you're playing a team, like you're playing a Memphis, right? You could put, Victor Wembanyama on a Jaren Jackson Jr. and a Luke Kornet combined with like a Zach Edey. Right? You even see like the Knicks in preseason were playing, a Karl Anthony Towns and kind of going with the double bigs with Robinson, right? Like, so you can kind of have that versatile two-man big type group, and Luke Kornet, with his defense, his rim protection, his ability to slot in, not expect him to necessarily start double bigs every single night, every single game, but I could see them maybe potentially even leaning into that lineup on, a nightly basis or a semi-regular basis type thing where it's like maybe not every night, but like more often than not, you see Victor Wembanyama and Luke Kornet kind of develop that. But to me, it's also the style in which Wemby plays and wants to play, right? Like Wemby wants to be more Kevin Durant, right? Rather than Hakeem, which I think is funny that he worked for Hakeem this offseason, but we've talked about it since he was drafted, right? Like he wants to take 10 threes a game. He wants to operate in the mid-range. He wants to, take guys off the dribble and shoot over the top and do all this other stuff rather than back to the basket, banding down low, doing all that. So if Wemby's going to take, let's say not even 10 attempts, let's say he takes, 7 attempts or 8 attempts, something like that, right? Like it would be nice to have sequences where you have that other big man that can help you get second chance opportunities, right? Get putbacks and just second chance points, be an interior presence. Luke Kornet is great, period, for this team because one of the Spurs' biggest problems is when Wemby went to the bench, they didn't have any rim protection. They didn't have anybody that could help kind of anchor the inside, where now they have that. So Luke Kornet's going to do wonders for that team. But now you can have Wemby kind of play in that scout role, that free safety role, where he can go and defend out on the perimeter, but still be the help defender on the inside. And the ground that he covers because of his size and his length and his athleticism and all those things. It's going to feel like at times he's all over the court. Like he's covering the entire court, right? And, I've seen people, Wemby doesn't work well with other bigs. And I don't necessarily believe that, right? Like, one, you got to look at the bigs in which he's playing alongside, in the past. Right? Like Zach Collins was like unplayably bad for the Spurs, which is crazy because he was actually really good for Chicago. It was like, where was that? And what's even funnier is he was actually that version earlier for when they Spurs first got him and then just kind of slipped off. So I just don't know how good of a matchup that was. Like if we would have gotten Chicago's Zach Collins, I think you would have had a better Wemby Collins type of connection, right? But you didn't, so it looked bad, right? Zach Collins, again, wasn't good. He didn't defend well. He just offensively wasn't well. And then you look at FIBA and the Olympics, stuff like that. He slotted alongside Rudy Gobert, right? Which, Rudy Gobert, as far as just being a big physical interior presence and a defender, is great. But he might be the worst offensive player in the NBA, right? Like he's one of the worst, outside of 3 feet, the guy isn't giving you anything offensively. right? So where Luke Kornet, he can knock down the little elbow. He can, he can operate around the rim. Like he's not going to be, a liability to the level that a Rudy Gobert can be at times offensively, and even a Zach Collins in the way he looked. And it's just, again, it's getting the reps and getting the consistency and figuring those things out to where Luke Kornet is one of the better rim protectors, shot blockers, holding opponents' field goal percentages down. You had in Victor Wembanyama and that defense. I think you'd have one of, if not the best defensive front courts in all of basketball when you have those two out there. And then you also add in, Wemby's ability to stretch the floor, hit shots, do all that stuff. You can do some fun configurations. I'm not saying you have to play that 38 minutes a night or anything like that, and you have to start that every game, and that's now the starting five. But it might, what if it's really good? What if it works? I mean, Luke Kornet really likes it. He seems to be bought in. He's saying all the praise about Victor Wembanyama and whatnot. My only question is, how does Luke Kornet fare as a starter? Because he's not really been a starter, right? Off the top of my head, I think the most games he started in a season were 18 or something like that. like he's not a guy that starts regularly, or a guy that is has had seasons of his career where he started a majority of them and then just kind of developed into a backup role type thing. No, he's one of the premier backup big men. So we've seen a lot of guys that are really good as backups, but when they have to step up and be the starter, they can do it in spots, but night in and night out, game in and game out, the consistency level, is that something that he's going to be able to do? We'll see. I'm not saying he won't be. I'm just saying, we don't have this tremendous sample size where it's oh man, the first 4 years of his career, he was a starter and this is what he was doing. And then just, as he got later years, started becoming a backup, right? We don't have that type of, data or sample size to figure that out. But I do think the double bigs, even with Kelly Olynyk and whatnot, I do think could potentially work and could be some fun. There was already talks. That's why one of the reasons they brought in Bismack Biyombo again, right? That there's talks that they want to play Wemby more at the 4, his ability to stretch the floor, operate, kind of be a little more free and versatile on the offensive side of things, which, I do want him around the rim more, right? Especially supposed to be grew an inch and all this other stuff. That's great, and more reason to have him towards the basket. I just don't like him taking 10 threes a game. I don't want half of his attempts coming from 3-point range. Steph Curry for his career, is only an 11 attempt guy. He has seasons where he hasn't even averaged as many attempts as Wemby's trying to average, right? And so I want there to just be a balance. I'm not saying don't take any threes. He should be, if he's around, say he's taking 20 attempts and he's shooting 5 or 6 threes a game, no problem. I'm okay with that, right? But it's also just, again, better shot selection, situational awareness, right? How many times did we see last year where Spurs were in the game, whether they had a lead or they were, within a couple points, and it's we're having our best player just stand out at atop the break, shooting above the break threes. It's why? It's a 1-point game. Why are you having him take 3 straight possessions of threes? Put him on the block. Let's get the lead. Or you're up 2. It's you don't need a 3 right there. Go get a 2, and it's still a 2-possession game. It's those kind of things. But anyway, as always, this is a discussion. I pass the question to you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me out. So we enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. Not subscribe to the channel, hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one. Thank you.